day 5 MuleSoft training. So we are Mumbai MuleSoft Meetup group, and we are doing the training in collaboration with the Guwahati MuleSoft Meetup group. Okay. Let me start with safe harbor statement. Both the speaker and host are organizing this meetup in the individual capacity only. We are not representing any organization here. The presentation is strictly for learning purpose. Organizer and presenter do not hold any kind of responsibility whether the same solution work for your business requirement. This presentation is just for the learning purpose, not for any promotional activities. We will upload the recording within 24 hours. Generally, we upload it much quicker than 24 hours. You can ask the question at any time, right? You have a chat window, and we have already enabled the presenter mode for each and every person. So you can ask the question at any time. Just request everyone to provide the feedback at the end of the meetup, which help us to improve, and which sometimes it also motivate us, like for doing the future meetups. The organizer speaker Jitendra and the moderator for this meetup Abhishek and myself Jitendra. I have already covered this slide. So as we know, we have covered this all topics on the day one, all these topics on the day two. We have covered connector, Salesforce connector, and other things in the day three. And day four we talk about like API manager, API proxies, and all these things. And today we will going to talk about batch processing for each, parallel for each, and implementing the process API. So as you know, like on the first day we have discussed, we will going to implement a API led connectivity approach here, right? So experience API, process API, and system API. We have already built one of the system API in our previous session. That is nothing like a Salesforce system API, which create a contact account in the Salesforce, which retrieve the account and the contact information from the Salesforce. So these are the things we have already done in our previous session. We have also enabled the API manager, like implemented the API proxy, API auto discovery in the previous session, how we can secure our APIs. All those things has been discussed in the earlier sessions, right? If you are interested, just I will suggest everyone to just go through all these four recording where we have covered a lot of things basically. Today we will going to cover some of the important component. One of them is the MuleSoft batch processing for each, parallel for each, and implementing process API. So let's start with the for each. Look, what do you think? Like, why we want for each, parallel for each, or batch processing? And anything on that? What things comes into your mind when you hear the term like batch processing? When you heard term for each, parallel for each?
If we want to process multiple records at once, like batch processing is nothing but suppose instead of processing each and every record manually, suppose if we want to insert something in the database,
Mhm.
then at a stretch we can insert 10 or 20. And in the similar way, we can use a for each loop and all that. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that is like the correct answer. And there are much more. So when we talk about the batch processing of parallel for each or for each, whenever we want to do the data migration from one system to another, so whenever we want to do the data loading, right, some kind of ETL, extract, transform, and load, we go with some kind of batch processing, right? We can also use for each and the parallel for each whenever we want to process the record in the batches, right? So and if the number of records are less, right, and when we want to process in some kind of batch, you can use the for each. And whenever you want to process the record in the parallel, right, in the multiple threads, right, so you can use the parallel for each. And whenever you want to process a million of records, like whenever you want to migrate data from one system to another system, like whenever you want to migrate or sync the data between the systems, right, whenever there is a heavy load, you can go with the batch processing. We will going to talk about the batch processing, parallel for each in the detail. We will going to cover everything, like when to use for each, when to use parallel for each, when to use batch processing, how we have to calculate the max concurrency, how we have to calculate the batch size. So there are a lot of things when we talk about the batch processing. We're going to talk on this particular session. So let me start with the for each first. So when it comes to for each, so for each process the request in the sequential. So whenever you have a requirement where you want to process the request one by one, or whenever you want to process the request in the sequential in the order, right? So you can go with a for each basically, right? For each process items sequentially one after another. Like generally in for each you cannot enable the parallelism, concurrency basically. It process everything into a single thread, right? So this like in the parallel for each, like if you have multiple records, so it will always wait for the first record to complete, then it will process the second record. So it is step by step, it is sequentially, right? It is good for the small amount of data whenever you want to process the small amount of data where the order is necessary, right? So in that case you can go with sequential for each. Okay, and here like best when your operation rely on the previous result, right? So whenever you see you process one of the record, and like the output of that particular record like can be used in the another record, right, where you can use the for each, because for each process record one by one in the sequential order. It maintain the order with calling a system that can not handle the parallel call. It is good for a small amount of data, like maybe 1,000 or 2,000 data. So whenever you have a huge amount of data, it is not suggested to go for each, right? It may take a lot of time to process that at least maybe 10,000 or 20,000 of record. Okay. So now we have another something called parallel for each, right? So what is the parallel for each? In parallel for each, like you can define what is the degree of parallelism you require. So you want 3 threads or you want 4 threads, right? So it can process the record simultaneously in basically, right? So like see parallel for each multiple items at the same time, but here the order is not guaranteed. Like it can process the record in any order. Like here order is not guaranteed. It uses the multiple thread you can configure. So generally it is always by default you can use the 2, 3 or 4 threads. Generally it is recommended to use two into your core size. Basically if you have a 2 v cores, 2 v cores like applied to your application, right? So 2 into 2 4 basically, like that. Your order is not guaranteed, but great for improving the performance of the heavy load. So make concurrency in the number of parallel threads you can define as a 5, 10, 20, whatever you want, right? But generally, like you need to test it out, right? So generally, there is a no such formula where you can just say like I want like 10 threads for this, I want 20 threads for this particular. So you have to test it, like so you have to try. You have to perform some kind of testing with a different number of threads, and then you can come to some final conclusion. I will require this many threads to process 10,000 records. Best when used. So whenever you want a faster processing, hyper item don't depend on the previous result, right? You are calling the system that support the concurrent request and processing CPU heavy or IO heavy task basically. So that is where you can make use of the parallel for each. Okay, I will talk about the batch processing later. Let's do some demo on the parallel for each and the for each basically. Okay. So what I will do, I will create a small application. I will create a process API file, new mule project. So generally, whenever you want to create a new project, you can say file, new mule project, and I will just say Salesforce process API. I will just say mule training. I will just say finish. Okay. So now first thing, like last time we faced some challenges with deployment. I don't want to face the challenges now. If I change this group ID, okay. So what will be the group ID? So either you can go to the API manager. This is nothing your business group ID. You can go to environment and here you can get this group ID. Copy this, paste this. Okay. So that's what you want to do. Let's check everything. So it's app runtime is 4.911 and Mule plugin is 4.3.0. Okay, and these are the some by default it added some dependencies and a repository which needed. I will just save this project. Okay, so let me show you what I will going to do. So I have some CSV file, so whichever 200 records, open with some kind of text edit. Okay, so these are some like account records basically, whichever name, type, industry, phone, website. These are the some fields basically, and these are the 200 records available in this. Okay, let's see how we can use the for each for that. Let's see the different behavior of the for each. Okay, so I will use this particular API, and I will just do one kind of some kind of scheduler here. I will put a scheduler, right? So here you have a scheduler where you can schedule your job basically, like so apart from that, like frequency, so I will just say frequency will be around 10 minutes. 10, I can just say every 10 minutes I need to run job. Start delay means like once you start the application, after how many minutes it should start the job, right? That is nothing, it's a start delay, right? So but it also support the cron expression, so you can choose the cron if you want to run the job at a specific time, right? 1 a.m. or maybe like you have to run the job at 1 a.m. or 4 a.m. or 10 a.m. Depending on that, you can define the cron expression and you can give it like, so cron expression. And you can also say in which time zone you want to run it, like EST or IST or whatever. Like, but we will go with the schedule fixed frequency, 10 minutes, start delay 0. Okay. Or I can with the or the others. Let's we don't go with the scheduler for now. I will go with the HTTP component for now. Okay, so I can just drag and drop HTTP component. We will change its schedule. Just I'm testing it here. I just want to show how for each and these things work. So I will just use the HTTP. I'll just keep everything as a default. I can simply say test. Okay. On listener, like what I can do, if you go to MMI type, so what is the input expecting? So it will be the application slash CSV. That is my input, right? You can add the parameter here. So I can just say, yeah, header. It will have a header basically. And you can just say header true. So if you're whatever CSV file you are sending, right? So here you have to define what content type is, like what is the input type, what is MMI type, right? It's the application slash CSV. What are the different parameters basically, right? So here you can see a lot of parameters available. Ignore empty line, quote, header. So what will be the separator, right? So I can add one more parameter, and here I can define what kind of separator is there. It will be the comma. So it will list down all the separator. I will just put this as a comma. These are my separator, right? So that is what that are the things you can define. And here also you can define the like what kind of encoding is, like, so for now I will just keep it default. I don't have anything specific to that now. So I will show you. See, like this will be my input. So here I am testing from Postman. So this will be my input basically in the CSV file format, right? I will just copy paste this CSV file here. You can use the scheduler also, but I will use for now. I will just use HTTP listener. Then, like, I want to convert this whole file into JSON. So I will use the transform message, right? And I just simply say JSON. Here I can just say payload. The CSV will be converted into JSON. Let's run this and test it out. What is happening? Whether these things is working or not. We will go step by step so you understand what we are doing. Okay, so yeah, I will make sure, like, you get this good understanding on for each, like each and every parameters of for each, parallel for each, and batch processing. So batch processing demo will be interesting basically, right? Where we will talk about, like, many things, like how to calculate batch size, which is very important. Okay, it is started. So you can see my application is started here. I will just drag and drop. Uh, okay. So I will just send message. Yeah, I got the JSON output which is required. Okay. So I got this output which is good. Now search for, like, I want to process this in the some kind of batches, right? So here, like, what I will do, I will use the for each. Okay. So here, like, you can define, like, payload. I don't have a, like, simple payload, and yeah, I don't want variable name. You can ignore this. I don't have any root variable. I will say best size of 1. Okay. Then I can put a logger component and let's see how it works. I can go to message. I will just log payload. Okay. Output. I want output in application slash JSON. So what will happen here out of for, so here if you see, this is the array of object, right? This is array of object basically. This is one object, this is second object, like that. So we have an array of object here, right? So now what it will happen, so as soon as uh, whenever the message come to here, right? So transform message will convert the CSV into JSON. Here it will going to split the message. Here we have defined it will going to split of message. So single object it will pass under the for each basically, and we have defined like base size of 1, right? Which means it will have a, like, it will have a single object, and it will going to log a single object, right? Let me show with the demo part. Let me save it. As soon as I will save it, it should deploy it. Okay, it is deployed. I will just clear this console and let's see what happens now. Okay, let's keep the eye on the logs. So you can see each payload has been logged separately, right? It's separately. So it means like what happened here. So the whatever array of object generated from this transform message, it got splitted here, and one object has been sent to the for each, basically, right? So you can see each and every object has been logged separately. Now if I want to log in the batch, right? So if you go to the for each, right? If you go to mule properties, all right, so here I can just say 10. So now it will generate a array of object, or array of 10 objects, basically. Let me save this and I will show you. Go to console. Let's clear this out. So once you change it, it automatically deployed in the Anypoint Studio. Now let me send this and let's see what happens. Okay, we got the output. Now instead of logging single object, you will see it will have a 10 object basically into the array. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. You can see the 10 objects, right? So that's how you can define, right? So how you want to process a record, whether it's in the batch or one object at a time, basically, right? So you can define like that. Okay, so now you got the understanding of this, right? Any question on this? Any question? No question? So okay.
No.
Okay, so now what I will do, if you see, we have a system API, right? So now we have this particular system API here, right? So let me show to the RAML. We already developed a system API, correct? Everybody is aware, right? So we have a system API. I will go to design center and I will show you. So this is my system API, and there's a one of the endpoint which creates a record. So now I want to create a record, basically. I want whatever accounts I have I have to create in the Salesforce, basically. So I'm going to use this method slash account post, and we have already implemented this method also, right? If you see our code, right? So if you see this Salesforce system API, right? So under system API, we have account where we have already implemented this method, like to create a single record, basically, right? So this method is already there, basically, which we have created, and to call this method from process, right? To process API to create the accounts. So okay, let's go step by step. The first thing what we will do, I will create one config folder. Okay, so I will just say config folder. Under config folder, I will create a two file. So I will create a secure properties file and the normal property file. So simple, I will just say file. I can just say secure -dev.ym. I will just say right click new. Where is new file? I can just say config-dev.yml. Okay, so these are the two files I've created. Because like if you see, if I want to use that API, right, we have enabled the some kind of client ID enforcement policies, right? So we'll go step by step. The first thing we will define like endpoint. So SFDC, I will just say SFDC, or I can just say, yeah, SFDC space SAPI space URL. So what is the URL? So let me go to runtime manager. Okay. So I'm just saying my Salesforce system API URL. This is my Salesforce system API URL. I'll copy this. I will put it here. Okay. So this is my Salesforce system API URL. So this is one of the thing. Okay. Now same thing I have to define SFDC. SAFI space, and then sorry, I want to define a client ID, client secret. It will be exclamation square bracket. Okay. So let me show you this API is secured, right? If you see this Salesforce system API training, this is secured with the client ID enforcement policy. Let me check that. Go to API manager. Okay. And this is my system API which is secure. I can open this. If you open the, so here we have a multi contracts assigned. So we have a gold day, and we have enabled some kind of rate limiting policies here. So I can just go back to my client application, and I can just say gold MuleSoft training. I can get a client ID and a client secret. So for that, we have some application. I want to encrypt this client ID and client secret. I can use secure properties.cloud.io, right? And I can use the blowfish, and let me get the key. I will use the same key. You can use the different key for different application, but for demo purpose, I want to make sure I use the same key as a system API. So this is my key. This key can be anything, right? So okay, this is my key. Then now I want this client ID. I will copy this client ID. I will paste this here. So what I've done, this is my key. Here I'll choose the algorithm, right? What is the operation, and I will generate. Okay, I got this encrypted client ID. I will copy this. I will go to the secure properties in the process API. I will paste here. Okay. Same thing I want to do for client secret. Let me go back to my API manager. I can view this. Okay. I can copy this and go to secure properties. I can change the value. I can just generate. Okay. I got this. Copy this. Go back and paste it there. Okay. In config dev, I want to define a path also. What is the resource path? So I can just say account path. Don't hard code anything. It's better to keep everything in the properties file. It is less API slash accounts. This is my path. Okay. So except this is happy URL and account path, right? And here we have defined credentials. So whenever process API will connect to the Salesforce system API, we need some. It should be authenticated, right? It is expecting client ID and the client secret, so request can get authenticated, right? So I will just create add new mule configuration file. I can just say Salesforce account IMPL. Okay. So here I will just what I will do, I will just drag and drop a flow. Okay. Just give me a second. Yeah, just give me a second. Okay. Yeah, sorry. Yeah. Just give me a second. Okay. So here I just take flow and always give a good name to flow so it is easy to understand. Create uh, accounts flow. Okay. The first thing I will just use the logger as always. I will say MuleSoft for account creation started. Okay, I'll copy this. Just put logger at the end. And here from started, I can just say completed. Okay. Always have a good practice to give a good name, good flow, log and flow. Log start flow. Okay. Here I can use HTTP component or you can use the scheduler, but I will use the HTTP component for now. So I can give some good name slash API slash account. So I will just say batch instead of batch accounts, right? And here I can delete this previous file. I don't need this. So here okay, that's fine. Okay, I know what happened. Like it connection was there. Okay. So log start now. Next thing, here again on the listener, I want to make sure I define the right MMI type. So I will just say application slash CSV add parameter. I will just say header. It has a header which is true, and it has a separator which is comma. So I defined that some properties to make sure like what kind of input is coming, right? Then log it. Then I will do some kind of transform message. Okay. So here I will just convert into JSON, CSV to JSON, and here I can use for each. And always give a good name, JSON. Transform to JSON. Here for each in the collection, I can give this as a payload. It's not necessary to give a, but always give a payload. And I will just select best size as a 1. Then I will use the transform message again, right? So I will just say JSON payload because when it comes inside, it is in the form of Java. So you can convert into JSON. Again, it's a single message it will come because it's a 1, best size is 1. Now what I will do, I will use the HTTP request component. Here I will use the HTTP request component because, and I will just say request Salesforce system API. Here I will start configuring. So what is the base path? I don't have any base path, but I have like host, right? So what is host? It is sfdc dot, right? SAPI dot URL. Port not necessary. That is the configuration you need to do and change the protocol to HTTPS. Okay. So one of the thing we need to do, like, we don't want to define this HTTPS. It will automatically take it. Just say Salesforce system API slash API slash account. Don't have to define the HTTPS. It will automatically take it. Okay. So now we have defined it. Now here we have to select a path or method which is post because we will going to create an account. And what is the URL path? And dollar sfdc dot sapi dot account path, I think, right? Also, we have to pass the two headers basically. If you see, right, a client ID and the client secret because it is expecting we have applied the policy client ID and how we can use we can like retrieve client ID. So you can use mule p because when we are defining the expression under the expression, right, always use mule colon p. Like you can access using dollar also. There's another syntax called mule p. And if you have a secure, you use secure colon sfdc dot sapi dot client id. Okay, copy this and I will just put comma, change it to secret. If you want to define some kind of component or header or anything like, you can also define a content type if you want. It's not necessary. So that's how you can define the header. So we are passing a client ID. The client ID we are reading from secure properties and client secret also reading from the secure properties. Also, we need to create one more file here. I will save everything. Okay. I will just right click, add mule, add new mule configuration file. I will just say global dot, not need to say dot XML, right? And I will just define secure properties here. So you can go to configuration XML, not sorry, global element, just say configuration properties. So you can define a configuration properties. So here your file under config slash config hyphen dollar mule dot env. So this is how it will pick the file depending on the environment dot yaml. Okay. Now we need to create a secure properties also. So secure property file. So I can just say secure. Secure is not there. So what you have to do, you can just search in the exchange and just say secure. So you can just add this, just say finish. So it will going to add the dependency into your pom.xml. Now you can just create secure. You get a secure config property. Here you have to again define a file name config slash secure hyphen dollar mule dot env dot yaml. Then where is your key? So mule dot secure dot key. Right? What is the algorithm? In this case, it's a blow face. Right? So we have to define that. I'll create a two global variable. So mule.env and mule.secure key. So global property mule.env. I will just default value is there. Mule.secure.key. So let me copy the key which I use for the encryption. I will copy this key. Go back there, just paste it. Just say okay. Okay. And just save it. Okay. So here I just got it. So now what I will do, I want to log the response. What is the response is coming? Transform message. JSON reload. Yeah. Guys, give me 2 minutes, okay? I am coming. Okay, so let me continue. Yeah, so just I'm converting the response. Okay, so you can see it. So I got this. Now see, like here, if you see, like so we have just done converted into JSON. We just calling the system API, and then we are getting whatever response getting. We are converting into JSON. Any question on this? See, one of the thing we need to do. Anybody tell me, like we have forget about one step. So you see why, Julio, like it depends like what you want to encrypt or what you want to decrypt, right? It doesn't matter. Like I generally prefer to encrypt or decrypt client ID and client secret both. Right? I don't want to see my client ID and the client secret. Okay. Because client ID is also one kind of confidential data. So I don't want to keep it open. Okay. Any question, guys? Like, are you getting it right? If you have any question, I can just go through the again. You just let me know. Like, if you have any question.
No question, it seems.
Okay. Now, what we have to do, right? So we want to make sure, like, So see here we will get a single JSON. So here like we get a CSV file. CSV whole CSV file will be converted to the JSON, which will be the array of object, right? With a, and it will get split here, and the single payload will come into for each. But here we need to do some kind of transform message, right? So this is my input, right? And whatever like input required by this request, right? That will be the some kind of transformation is required. Why I'm saying, I will tell you. If you see this particular account number, right? This is string. This is string, right? If you see number of employees, this is also a string right here. But if you see the Salesforce payload in RAML, right? So if you see Salesforce payload in the RAML, if you go to the RAML, basically, okay. So let me go to Design Center, Salesforce System API. Okay, so if you see the library and account library, and if you see this account number, right? Account not about account revenue. This is number. If you see number of revenues, right? Number of employees. This is kind of like integer. Let me run this and I will show you. This will throw error. Let me save this and let's see like whether it works or not. So generally it will throw the error. Okay, so let me send the message first. I will send it. It's not test. I think it's page slash accounts. Let me check what is the endpoint. Okay, it's accounts. Let me do it to accounts. I will save it again. Let it get deployed. I just want to show you like all the scenarios. Where are the things you can face, right? What are the issue you can face? So I will just clear the console and all these messages should fail. Okay, we got a 400 bad request, which is expected. And I told you, right, you will get this 400. Let's go and check that system API, why we got that. Let's go logs, right? So here, if you see, we get the 400 bad expected type JSON array, but found JSON object. That is one of the problem, right? So why we got this? Because it is expecting some kind of JSON array. Because Salesforce, it doesn't matter if it's a single object or it's a multiple object. It always required a array. So just save it. Just save it. That's the first issue. So I'm intentionally creating all these issues so you knows, right? So in future, like if you get some kind of issues, what you can do. Let me save it and test it again. Let me clear the console. Let's see what happens. Let me send 400 bad request, which is expected. This time it should give like, we can check why we getting this. So the log sometime takes time to get update or refresh it. You have to go and check in the system API. So you can see, as I mentioned, the number of employees, it is expected as a integer, but we are sending as a string. This all validation is happening at a API gateway level. You have seen that, right? It is even not going to the Salesforce. These errors all coming from the API gateway. Because if you see in our RAML, we have defined a data library. In our data library, the number of employees is a integer, right? And like number of employees is an integer, and we are sending as a string, and it got filled in the data validation. So you can see the power of data library and data types. So where like you can your whole message or input message get validated at a API gateway level. Okay. So let me do one thing. So I will just take the example defined here. So some kind of like we have this kind of post account request. I will copy this. Okay. And I will just go to the notepad. Should have it notepad somewhere. So, or I can download this file directly if I possibly, let me edit. Can download this file. Okay, and you go to transform message. The transform message uh, before Salesforce system API request, just say define metadata. I can just say add. In this add, I can just say account input JSON. I can just say create type, and it will of type JSON. Let me, copy this. Okay, so that's fine. Let me do one thing. Let me copy this and do one thing. You have something called data wave playground. I just want to convert into data wave playground. I can copy I can just change this to CSV. So this is playground where you can write. I will show you this in later session, and I can just say payload. Okay, this is I will take few objects. Okay, so I cannot see my notepad here. I can just go to applications. File. Let me save this. I will just save this as a desktop. I will save on the desktop account input slash JSON. Save it. Use .json. I'll go back to my Anypoint Studio. Right here, I will define a metadata input JSON. I will just say JSON. What is type? Example. And I will take my inputs on desktop. Right, it is available on desktop. Okay, this is my input file. Okay, just select. Okay, and here I also want to so what you can do here. So now I can just say payload map. Okay, so payload map, and I can just put curly bracket. So I want to iterate through. So first I want name. So I can just say dollar dot name, and I can simply say the dollar dot name as a string. Right, and I can just say type dollar dot type as string. Right, I'm just mapping it, and then industry dollar dot industry as string, then like phone, I can just say dollar dot phone. So map is just iterating over each and every object and doing some kind of data validation, data transformation. I can just say website dollar dot website as string, right, and then I can just say account number is also a string. Okay, make sure the spelling is correct. Annual revenue, here dollar dot annual revenue as number, which is very important. Okay, then next comma number of employees, which is dollar dot number of employees, again as number. Okay, then billing straight. So dollar is just accessing that particular object in the array. Billing straight as string. Billing city dollar dot as string. Then we have a billing postal code dollar dot billing postal code as string. Okay. So now billing country dollar dot billing country as string. Okay, we define our mapping, make sure all spelling, but here we will not use the map operator because it will get a single object. We have defined the best size as single object, right? So now I can change this dollar to payload only, like so I will show you why I'm doing this. You will get it, like you will understand, because here we have defined the best size one, right? So for that we will just get a single object. If we have defined the multiple best size, then we can use the map operator. So here I'm just using payload. Okay, let me save this. Okay, let's see if it works. Let's wait it get deployed. Let me clear the console. Let's see if everything works fine. Let me go to Postman. Okay, it failed with 400. Let's see why. Let me check. Okay, vendor is not valid enum value. Okay, so let me check why vendor is not valid enum value. Okay, I know that because if you see in data live, see it is good. Like we are getting the error, which is good because if you see API designer and if you see my library, right? In my library, if you see the type, right? It is throwing the error for type, the type vendor. I just put it now, few minutes back before this session started, but I haven't deployed it. So let me go and check why it's giving the error. So vendor is not a enum value, right? So let me do one thing for this basically, right? So I just have to redeploy it. The two things we need to do. So we have to just publish this latest version with vendor value. So just publish with latest version. So 1.05. See, this is good. Like it is validating everything, right? So everything with the API spec. So it's very, that's why I keep on saying like it's very important to define a right API specs. Like, the lot of things get validated at the API specs level. Okay. So now once it is published 1.05. So you go to system API first. In system API, you have to change at two places. So one version needs to be changed in the like API kit router. So if you see, we have a API kit router config where you have a 1.0.4, change it to 1.5. Okay. Then we have something called pom.xml. We have to change the version for Salesforce system API in the pom.xml also. It's just save it. If everything is good, just export this. Next, and just say finish. See, we have seen a lot of validations happen there, right? So yeah, cool. So now I go back to my runtime manager. I go to settings. I can deploy this application. I have to go to desktop. Just apply changes. There's a one more place we need to do the changes. Now go to API manager also. Now at a API gateway also we need to change the version. Go to Salesforce system API. Just say action, change API specification to 1.05, change it. That's it. So these are the two things we need to do. So once you are publishing the new version of your API spec, right? So we have to do the two changes. Let it get deployed. Before that, if you have any question, I can take it. Does map need to have each attribute the ones which does? It's not necessary, like, it's not necessary. So you can iterate and you can just change once basically. Okay. So let it get deployed. So you can keep eye on the logs. It takes some time, like 2-3 minutes. Let me open the account object also in the Salesforce and we can see account. So I'll just say all accounts. So we have this many accounts basically. Let me remove this one basically. We have this many accounts, okay? Waiting for application to deploy. It is deploying. Okay, it is done. And let keep eye on logs itself. And let me send this and let's see what happens. Okay, it is. We got again bad request and let's see why. See, we have created lot of accounts has been created. You can see it, right? But it somewhere it got failed. So let me refresh this and so let me refresh this. So we have one account created. Okay. So after that there is some issue. Let me show a lot accounts. Only one account is created, and let me see what was the problem. So we will correct this. So or we will do one thing like for demo purpose we will remove some kind of mappings where it or we can remove the enums also. It is creating the accounts somehow. Yeah, it is still creating account. It's nothing failed yet. So let me check. Yeah, but it only created the one account. I already mentioned it might be failing. Okay, it's saying completed. But it took lot of time. If you see it, right, it took a good amount of time basically, right, to complete this processing basically. And apart from that, we can see some kind of error. I know what is the problem. It might be duplicate account, because like if you see the ECMA 1, ECMA 2, those are some kind of duplicate account, and that is why it is causing the problem. But I will show you. Give me a second and let me check the logs, because the problem here, I'm just not putting any kind of logs here, right? So for that, what we can do, let me go back to my Salesforce account. Not this one. Yeah, go to Process API, and I want to log this payload, so I can get the exact what is the reason the account is not created. I can just say payload. I can save it. I can delete whatever accounts we have. Okay. So let me refresh this page again. Let me see if it's get deployed. Okay. Let me clear the console. See, it's saying duplicate detected. Okay. So because if you see, like, first account is created, after that it is saying duplicate detected, right? So maybe I want to change these names. So I will just pick 10 accounts and I will just change some kind of information, so it doesn't give the error with a duplicate detected. So let me do one thing. Mm, some kind of data. It should not do that, right? Why it's saying duplicate detected for this? Because it's a separate account. Let me do one more thing. Let me cancel this out. We will do one more thing, like we will log this payload also, and let's see why it's giving duplicate detected. This is not a duplicate account, right? Let me take another data. I have other data also. I can pick those. Instead of that, I can pick this one. Okay. Let me pick some of the record here. I can pick more. Okay. Let me see if application started. That is started. Let me refresh this and let's see. Because this is also similar 8081 or something like that. Let me refresh this. Yeah, problem here, it is just taking one, and for rest it is saying duplicate detected. I don't know why it's doing like that. Okay, so maybe I need to do one thing. Mm, so I may have to change this name. So let me pick 10 records, like, and I will change the names and everything. Pick the 10 records. And I will open the notepad. Because like I think like even the some name start, right, it doesn't, it considered that as a duplicate. I don't know why. It should not be like that, but anyways. So I can just say ACC Corporation. I can just say BCC, CCC, like ACC, G, SCC. Let me check phone number, email. Let me check the emails. Okay, website. I can just say, I'm just changing some name so we can test it. Let's see if we process these records. Okay. So let me go back to Salesforce again. Let me delete this record. Yeah, okay. I think this time most of the records are successful. Say you can see ACC, BCC, like CC, DCC, like ECC. All these records has been created now because I feel like even the account name start with a similar, right? It doesn't. It considered that as a duplicate. So here you can see all 10 record is created. But what is the problem here? Anybody can tell me what is the issue here? Gagan, like if you see the previous session where I explained like how we can do that, like overwriting is not an issue because if you see here we have a one record, it make a one connection with the Salesforce. Like I processing 10 record, it is creating a 10 connection with the Salesforce basically. Correct? So if I want to process everything into the single record, what we can do? The first thing what I have to do, I go to Salesforce, like I go back to Salesforce, and I can just say duplicate. Okay, let me go back to setup. First, I will delete this record. Okay, once which start with delete mass delete record. Just want to delete the record because it creating a lot of issue with duplication. Uh, Account name. I can just say contain CC search. Okay, I can select everything. I can delete this. Okay, that's fine. So now what I will do, instead of processing everything one by one, right? So I can just change my batch. So Salesforce connector can take up to 200 record. So if one array can contain up to 200 accounts, not more than that. If you have put 201, it will throw error. So now here I will just change to map operator. I will just say payload map. So now it will get a array. This is dollar. It will iterate through all the object in the array. Okay. So payload map. So $. Uh, it's fine. I'll save this.
Uh,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So let me save this. So now we don't have to put the array. The map operator will automatically form an array. Let me save this and put this as a console and just clear this. Okay. So now let me process all these records again. See, this happens very quickly, right? And we can see the single result, like everything in the single, like these 10 records gone into a single request. It will just make a single connection with your Salesforce system API, and Salesforce API system API will make a single connection with your Salesforce for up to 200 records. So you can see a single payload is with a single response. If you go and check the accounts, right, you will see all the records coming again. So ACC, BCCC, DCC, ECC, right? SCC, ICC, JCC, like that. You can see all this. So I will just go and delete it again. So guys, can we take 5 minutes break? Because I'm talking from 1 hour. Like Abhishek, you want to take anything for now? So I can take 5 minutes break. Okay.
Uh,
So I will delete this.
sure.
We can take 5 minutes break. Okay, guys. So we'll talk about the parallel for each next.
Yeah. Meanwhile, anyone have any question, you can unmute and ask me, and I can try to answer you that.
Uh, Hi, Gagan this side.
Yeah, hi.
Are we also going to cover scatter gather?
Scatter gather. I'm not sure. Wait, I'll ask. So we are going to have batch data weave, and there might be something with charge and scatter gather, but I will not exactly speak about that.
Yeah, that also comes under parallel processing, right? So that's why. Also, one more thing. Can we also just while during the session,
Mhm.
can we also check if we define some variables or payload before for each or batch? How that those variables or payload changes during inside that batch or for each, and
Mhm.
after that, what happens to that
Okay. Two variables and payload file.
propagation? Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Anyone else have any question?
Yeah, hi Abhishek.
Yeah, sure.
Abhishek, also we would like to know the error handling part for these batch processing.
We have those coming up.
Okay,
The error handling part and other things. I mean, it's error handling everything we have in coming modules. So
okay,
we will deeply discuss on that. Okay.
okay.
And you, Gagan, you had you were asking about the properties. So maybe you see the older videos there. It has been defined. So we don't give it hard coded in the globals, but we provide that as a runtime. And when we are doing like our studio running, so we can pass that in our arguments as well. So instead of hard coding.
Okay.
Okay.
And that's fine, Abhishek. But is there any way to
Mhm.
secure those properties as well? The runtime property.
No. So yeah, ways in the sense like when you define that in your runtime, you can mark this as protected so that it is not directly visible to anyone.
Okay.
So in your platform, once you go to your platform and you go to properties in your Cloud Hub, you will see there will be an option of protected.
Hmm.
Okay, so once you click that, your values will not be visible anymore.
Okay.
So that's where we can protect it. And I have provided the link to the previous recordings, the GitHub link where you will get all the modules details like all the jar files, the PPTs, anything what you want to practice. Also, I have provided the link for WhatsApp group. So if you want to be a part of Mumbai or Guwahati WhatsApp group, you can use that link to register yourself.
Can we also use that link for to technical queries?
Yeah, sure, definitely you can do that.
Okay.
And Julio, you have some questions. We'll try to take that later on. We'll show like whether we have a for each on top of the connectors or not, and how that is working. Okay.
Yeah, I'm back. Let me share my screen.
Yeah, sure.
So now, let me go back. I have one generated one file, some data. So I know where it's gone. Yeah, this is something. So let me check where I generated. Okay, so this is the file with something around 4 or 500 records, 100 records. So let me copy this data. Let me go back to my. So now one question here, so what will be the output here basically outside the for each? What will be the output? Let's log it. It will be the original payload. Okay, the output after for each. This is the question we may get in the certification exam, So what will be the output generated here? So let's print the output here, and this time I will give some more records. So here I can just say Control A, Control V. Okay, I
Uh,
generate. Yeah.
Jackie, sorry to interrupt, but can we also have some variables? Because Gagan had this question like how the variables and payload get changes.
That's what
In
I'm showing here, right? That
yeah.
is what I'm showing here. Okay. So let me save this console. I just put the payload. Okay. So here what happened done, I have a listener. I just log transform to JSON. Here I'm just transforming in the Salesforce format, just logging it, the payload, then request like this. And this is the final output response coming from Salesforce. And let's see what get logged at the end, right? Outside the for each. Let's see that. Let me run this. Like what is the best size now? It's 200, right? Instead of that I can just make it 20. Save it. Okay, let me send the message. So here you can see it so at the last you can see this is the final output which is generated, right? So whatever output before the transfer, what is the output here, right? You will see that logged here outside the for each. So you can get the original payload after for each basically. That is what I want to show you, right? So that is some kind of questions you can get it basically so let me see how many accounts are there. So you can see there are a lot of accounts has been generated, right? So you can see BCS corporation, all account has been quickly added here. You can see that, right? Okay. So this is what I want to show you. Any question? Like now I can take the question on for each
Ye-
before I move it to parallel for each.
Yes, Julio has a confusion. He's asking we have a for each when we are calling the system API, but in system API also we have a for each on the connector.
No, I haven't put any for each there.
Yeah, so maybe
Put like there is a no for each on system. Who may, right? There is a no for each, I think, right? You don't have directly create Salesforce account. Who told like there is a for each? There is a no for
yeah.
each.
So Julio, I hope you're clear, right? So the for
We generally don't create a for each such kind of processing in the system API, right? We don't do that. We just do whatever orchestration or whatever we have to do. We do it at a process API level. Okay.
Hello.
Can we please go on mute? Lot of noise.
uh, he wanted to ask a question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hello. So sorry. I thought so. It means that when we are calling the system API to create object in Salesforce, are we sending an object or an array?
we see always we have to send the array basically. Okay, so like we have to send the array basically, right? Because like if you see this particular create or API basically, right? So we have to send this as a array because it is expecting array as the input, but we are not doing any kind of for each here basically.
Okay.
We generally do the for each in the process API. So that is, see, simple rule, generally we don't have to any kind of orchestration or any kind of splitting, any kind of batching in the system API. We don't do that.
Okay.
We generally do it in the process API. That's what we have done here, Julian. Like so we done the for each, we form the payload, right? Because the system API can see we have to generate the array of object from here basically, right? And we send to the system API, and system API is also expecting the array of object. That is what we have defined. Generally when we generally define the array of object at the system API, because Salesforce can can take the input as a array of object,
Okay.
right? So
Okay.
that's why.
Okay. Thank you. And because in fact I was confused by the fact that we are sending an array to the system, and I was asking myself how is the system API handling an array? But if the Salesforce connector needs an array, I think it's okay for me. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, you got this, right? Anybody have any question on for each? Like Gagan, you have any doubt? Like you just let me know. I can clarify those doubt. You got that, right? What kind of output we get it here? So whatever output or whatever transform messages we have before the for each, that original payload you get outside the for each basically. Now, one question here. So you have see, like somebody asked me a question. Like there might be like you are processing one record at a time, for example, right? So I take one example here. You are processing one record at a time, and you encounter some error, like on the third record, it will stop processing that particular third record. From third record, it will stop processing, right? It will not going to process the further record. That is one of the scenario, right? So now you have some issues where, like, I will show you. So here again, I will just process one record at a time. I will just change this to some kind of this. I want to show. Let's cover. Like even it takes time. It's fine. We can have an extra session, but I want to make sure you understand this part. Okay, it's very important. This is one of the typical requirement you get in the project. I'm just trying to cover those typical requirement. So I will just here I just keep the best size one. So when you keep the best size one, it doesn't get a array of object. It will just get a single object. So just I'm changing this payload. I want to cover one of the scenario. Okay. So this is my transform message. I just change it to baller, and here I just change it to for each best size one. Now what I will do, so I will just not process all the records. Just I want to showcase a demo where, like, I can. So here I will just pick few records, FCC, and here I will just copy the same record. It should ECC, and I will just copy the same record in current scenario. And let me do one thing, and let me clear out all the records. Like, I want, this is very important scenario, I need to cover it, so you get the idea, like, exactly what we are doing. I can just say something, industries, uh, search. I will delete everything, permanent delete. 1 minute, close. Okay, something corp, just search it. Or name contain, not corp. I'm just deleting record because, like, I want to test some scenarios. I can just say permanently delete. Okay. Now after co-op, I can just say something have a CC. Just search this. I can select this. I can select this. I can delete this. Let me check if there's any account which we have added. They are retail, service, energy, like all these kind of things, right? So retail, health, global, retail. Let me search this. So what are the main tech and health and global? Tech, I will just say account name, contain, not this and will not work here. I simply say search. Search. Okay, I will just delete this. Let me see if any unwanted accounts are there. We have a services, logistics, systems, and manufacturing holding. Let's keep it there. That's fine. We can delete it later. So now my scenario is that, like, you can see, like, we will just have a ACC, right? Then it will add a BCC. Then it will go, it will fail here with a duplicate record, and it will not going to process these records. Okay, let me save this API data, and it can redeploy it. I'm covering one of the scenario, right? Error handling scenario. So my requirement is that even one of the record get failed in middle, I don't have to stop the processing. I just have to notify for that particular record failure, but the processing should not stop. Okay, so let me clear the console. Okay, and let me send it. Yeah, here the main problem is here, like, Salesforce always responds with true kind of thing. Let's see, like, so let me go back and send the response. Okay, so where it is, where it is. See, the in Salesforce, like, what happens, like, it always send 200 for everything, right? So you can see, like, most of the record is success, like, for everything it send a 200. In this case it will work, but there might be scenario where, like, it's not a Salesforce, right? If some other system, like, which just throw the some kind of primary key validation or some kind of thing, right? So for example, I will show you something, like, so I want to fail one of the record in middle. So what I can do, so I have this particular records, and whenever I have a, like, a type, right? So industry type is like something called customer or something like that, right? I have to raise the error basically, right? So what I will do, so I will put some kind of validation here first. So if you put some kind of I can do something. Let me think what I can do. Mm, okay, so here you can use choice, something like choice or something like that. Let me think, like, no, okay, I have one scenario. So where, like, I will just stop on my system API. Okay, so I'm just stopping my system API here. I'm just stopping. So as soon as my system API stop, if I send the message now, it is throwing me error not found, right? If you see it at the first record, it threw the error, it's not found. But I want to continue even the first record get failed. So for that, I can use a try catch block. You have a try catch block. You can just drag and drop try catch block. Bring everything under try catch block. And here we have something called on error continue. I will talk more about on error. So you can just drag and drop on error continue here. So if there's any kind of error, or you can have some kind of selective error. So I can just say something bad request. If it's bad request, connectivity, or if not found, or I can simply say, instead of selecting everything, I can say any error. Okay. If there's any error, you keep continuing. So I can use the logger for here. Just, you can just put logger, just say error dot description. Okay. Let me save this and let's see whether it process all 10 records now. Even it is getting error, it should process all the 10 records. So you use the on error continue. Here we are saying if there's anything get failed for that particular record, you should not stop. You should continue. That is what I'm trying to say. And any kind of error, either you can have a selective error, that you can select a few error or one error, or you can just say any. For now, I'm just saying any kind of error. Just go to console. Let me refresh this and let me clear this out. Let me send this. See, now it's taking time. Now it is processing everything, each and every record. If you go, see, it is processing each and every record, right? Even we are getting the error, it is processing each and every record basically, right? You can see it. Okay. So that is the benefit of using the on error continue. In case you may have a requirement, you are processing million of record. And if the record got failed at 10,000, right, you don't have to stop because of some kind of data validation or some kind of system error or anything. You don't want to stop there. You want to keep continuing. So you can do that. That is how using on error continue. Any question on this? I will just start my application before we go to the parallel for each. Any question? You got it, right? How you can do it?
Yeah, Jitendra, hi.
Yeah, hi, Subha.
Jitendra, let's say for example, the record that is failed here, and based on that record, we have other processes, and let's say we have to insert, and we have inserted in the first process, but it failed due to some reasons, so we don't want to insert it that in the DB or any other.
You can use the transaction. It's kind of rollback, right? So if you are using like if you have three tables and you
Hmm.
want to make sure it either it get inserted in all three tables or it doesn't get inserted in all three tables, right? Like for
Hmm.
example, it get inserted into first table. It haven't got it failed while inserting into second table, right? So you can perform all these operation under the transaction. So when you do the database operation or GMS operations, right? It support the transactions basically.
Okay.
But in case of Salesforce, it doesn't support the transactions. So for that, there is some other connector called Salesforce Composite Connector, right? So you have to make use of the Salesforce Composite Connector where we have some property called all or none. Either you perform all the operations or none of the operations basically, right? So like if you are inserting data in account and relative contact basically, right? So you want to make sure the account and contact both get inserted. Otherwise, if anything failed, everything should roll back. So we have a Salesforce composite connector. We can use that. In case of this Salesforce connector, you have to define your own operations. Basically, in case of failure, you have to go and delete it. Under the on error handling. Yeah, like no, I will show you. So
Okay.
under this on error continue, you have to define the delete operations basically.
Okay. When we are using that
Salesforce
Salesforce
yeah.
composite
Yeah,
connectors.
for database, we have a transaction supported for database, JMS, and VM. For Salesforce Composite Connector, if you are using Salesforce Composite Connector, where you can say all or none, true.
Hmm.
Either perform all the operation, either perform a single, not like either roll back everything. Like that's how you can do it. In case of other connectors, you have to whatever. If you want to do compensation, you have to define your own rollback strategy.
Okay. And how can we uh, perform that our strategies for this rollback? Uh,
You have to define like see for example here I'm performing two operation, right? One is
yeah.
for creating account, one is for creating account, right?
Hmm.
And now it got error out. You need to make sure you have to pick that account ID and you can start like you have to define a delete operation here to delete the data from Salesforce or like from any other system. So that is what you have to define it basically. You can see the Salesforce delete is there, right? You
Yeah.
pass that ID and you have to delete that object from Salesforce contact, like so that is like it's a manual kind of things you need to define it here. In case of database, it either commit fully, it roll back everything. That is how it happens. So for database, it support transaction, but for Salesforce core connector, it doesn't support a transaction. But for Salesforce composite connector, as I mentioned, you have some property called all or none in the JSON. You can define it true or false. Like either you have to do the compensation or you don't want to do the rollback. Like you want to support like atomic and consistent like acid properties, right? For transaction, it support that. But for this kind of say normal Salesforce connector or any other connector, you have to define your own operation under the on error continue or on error propagate. You have to roll back it manually.
Okay. And one more thing, Jitendra, I got one question more. Let's say we are performing this for each. We have some processes, and somehow our system goes down by any reason.
Mm-hmm.
So let's say we have 100 records and
Mm-hmm.
10 are processed. Uh, but when the system restarts, how can we assure that those 10 should not reprocess? Only the remaining 90 should.
See, in this way, like I will go with a queue strategy, right? So I
Okay.
don't want like see either you can use a retry, like like your system sometimes doesn't accept some kind of messages for few minutes, right? And it can goes out for the few minutes. In that case, you can go with a retry strategy. You can define a retry. So every 5-10 minutes you do the retry, but make sure like you don't have to retry a lot of messages at a time because like what I will say, like your heap size, right, or your memory become full basically at that point of time, right? So in that cases, I will like if you know that your system is just offline for few minutes, 1 or 2 minutes, then it's okay, and you are aware your backend system like not accept the message for that particular time period, right? In that case, you can just use the retry mechanism. In case if you want like if your case message got failed, right?
Hmm.
Like if your system is down for 1 hour or 2 hours, you can push it all those messages to queue, right? Dead letter queues or some other queues basically, right? And from that queue you can reprocess those data basically. That is only one way, or that is only two ways I can think of reprocessing the message, right? Other thing, either you can whatever message is failing, right, you can load it somewhere, like and later, or see, load it somewhere. I will always go with a queue strategy here, right? I push the message to the queue. So if message got failed, right, I can define the queue here under on error continue, right, and push it to the queue. Whenever the system will come up, it will pick the messages from the queue and start processing it,
Okay.
right?
Mm, got it. Got some idea.
Yeah, and retry is also one thing. But retry, you have to make sure you cannot make your message to wait for the longer period, right? If you are accumulating more than 1,000 or 10,000 or 20,000 messages in the memory, you know what will happen. The memory will get your hip, right? Memory, the system will get crashed, or your memory will get, you will not have enough memory to process the messages basically.
Understood.
Okay. So that's all
Yeah.
about for each. I don't think we will be able to do the like at least batch processing today. We may have to do it tomorrow. It's fine. So parallel for each again, like in parallel for each, you cannot define a batch size. You have to process one message at a time, but you can process in the parallel basically. Like we have defined like a batch size in the for each. We cannot do it for the parallel for each. But even for parallel for each, one of the advantage you can start a multiple threads at a time basically, right? That you can do it. Okay. So now what we will do. Okay, so now we will start using the parallel for each. Before that, let me go to the Salesforce. Let me see like if we have some what records are there. I have to clear this out basically. Like okay, we have got more record corporation solutions and systems. Let me delete it because I don't have enough memory because it's a free account, so it doesn't give that much of the memory. So I have to delete it every time. So now systems, manufacturing, logistic systems. Holdings, logistics, services, holdings. Okay, better I will delete from there. these are the three records. Or simple, let me see, like, one of the thing is account owner. If I can use the account owner is there. Okay, I will not waste the time. So we can use the account owner also for deleting it. So delete. Next time we will use the account owner. Okay, good. So now other thing, like, so we will go with a parallel for each instead of for each. So what I can do, I can just search for parallel for each. I can drag and drop parallel for each, right? I can just drag and drop try catch hole inside this. So if you see in parallel for each, only thing collection will be my payload. Here you can define the max currency. By default, I think it's 2. It will start 2 threads. I can just say 10. Okay, generally it will be 2 into your number of cores, right? And default is 2 basically. If you have 2 V cores, you can assign 4. If you are right, so depending on cores, basically you can assign, like, for now I am using the 10 max concurrency. Here the transform message I am using because I will get a single payload, as I mentioned. We cannot define the best size here, right? Then this is my logger. The rest of the things will remain same. I can delete this, okay, and I can save it. Only thing here, we cannot define a best size, but you can do the parallel processing. So let's deploy it. So batch processing is more interesting where we have a more options, right? So like we will talk about batch processing. Let's see, like, if I think today we are already running out of time. So let me send this. I will take the 100 records. Okay, copy this, paste it there, and send it. See, here you can see Hubert 03, Hubert 07, right? These are the all different Hubert 21, Hubert 21, 22. It will start 10 threads at a time, right? So you can see it, right? No, so there are like lot of records has been created, right? You can see like Hubert 03, 21. So it will start 10 threads at a time. Now you can see the all record has been also processed. It is not doing batching, it is faster also. You can see it able to generate all, it able to process all the 100 records. Let me go back to my Salesforce and let's see. Refresh this. You can see all record came basically, right? All the record has been processed. If all the data validation all passed, it has been processed, right? So you can see it basically. So with the parallel for this Hubert 0.22, Hubert.03, Hubert dot, these are all threads. So at a time, it started a 10 threads in the parallel. Let me do one thing. Let me go back, like, go back to my mass delete. And this time I will search for account owner. Yeah, it came like this is the good way of deleting the account. No accounts are there. Let me refresh this. Cool. So we have deleted all the account which is in my ownership. Okay. So let me go. If I say one thread, it will take more time for processing. See, when I say 10 thread, everything has been processed in the second. Only the disadvantage here, like, it will create, if you have 100 record, it will create 100 connection with Salesforce system API, and Salesforce system API will create the 100 connection with the Salesforce, right? That is one of the disadvantage here. But if you want to do the batching here, you have to do the outside this parallel for each and send the record to the parallel for each. That's what you have to do it. You have to define your own strategy. So let me stop this. And I want to make sure, like, we are doing it right. And one of the difference, I will tell you what's the difference. The parallel for each will never give the original output after the end of the parallel for each or after the outside the parallel for each. It will never give that output. Okay. So that's one of the difference between parallel for each and the for each.
What is the output for this
Let me
parallel for each? I missed.
send this. See, this time it took much time, right? So if you define, can somebody tell me what does this mean? If you are defined the max concurrency as a one, it will act like a for each. It will act slower than for each, basically, right? So and go back. See, everything is happening into a single thread, which is known as a Hubert 02. A single thread. You can see it here, Hubert 02. For everything, it's Hubert 02, right? So it have everything happen into a single thread. Now, what happen after certain time? It will start a new thread number, which is Hubert 11. So now you will see, but it will not run a pair in the parallel, like basically everything happen into a single threads, and it is taking much more time. Now, parallel for is also processing the record in the sequence. And here you can see I put the logger here, right, outside the parallel for each. But we don't get the original output here in the case of parallel for each, right? We get some kind of this, what is the status code, all these kind of things basically. But we don't get the original output outside the parallel for each. That is one of the difference, right? Now let me do one thing. Let me change this to, you know, something 10 threads. Okay, go back, search, select everything, select this, permanently delete. Okay, so let me refresh this. If I define 10, it will be happen faster. Okay, so guys, what you got the meaning of why we have to use the on error continue, right? So in case in middle if some data got failed, but it will start, it will continue basically. Let me say this time it should happen faster, right? It is more faster, right? Because we are doing in the 10 threads basically. Can anybody? No, I have a few questions. Like I just want to make sure like your understanding is correct. Which is the best option? For each with the best size, or parallel for each with a max concurrency? Hello.
Is
I think for each with the batch size of 10.
Correct. It is better because it is more faster also, and it reduces the number of connections to the Salesforce, right? And if you are on the Salesforce, if there's a limit of like number of connections you can have a per day or per year, right? So where you can go with this kind of for each, where you can define the best size basically. So I can define 200, so up to 200 you can, because Salesforce connector can support up to 200 object in the single array. So up to 200 account in the single array. If you try to send 201 account, right, it will fail. I want to show that also. So if you like, I can show it, but you got it right. What I'm trying to say. If I send this
Jitendra,
201
one
account,
question.
right? Yeah.
This will this thing not be more of a judgment call as to what exactly you're trying to do? For example, if you're doing some mass migration and it's a very defined time window, which is where your resources are dedicated for that, you might really want to
Hmm.
do it not with some batch size specific because you would like to optimize the resources and use it completely, right? So would it really
Correct.
depend on the situation there?
Yes, it depends on situation. If somebody, like for example, if so like if you want to do the if you want to run the in the parallel, or like in the parallelism, right?
Hmm.
So you can definitely, what you can do, see, with batch processing with a parallel for each, you have to define your own aggregation strategy, right? Own aggregation strategy, and then you use the parallel, you aggregate the message outside the parallel for each, then send that message to the parallel for each basically,
Okay, okay.
right? And then then you can use the parallel for each very well. Like you have to define your own aggregation, then you can use the parallel for each, where it will be more optimized solution, where it can it can process like multiple messages in the multiple threads. But in case of for each, basically like everything get processed into a single thread, right? So basically like if you have a lot of records basically, right, where I don't think we have to go with the for each also. Like if you have a 50,000 or 1 lakh record, and we have to make sure like that get processed in the parallel
Correct,
basically,
correct,
right?
correct.
Then in that case you go with the parallel. But for large number of record, we not go with the parallel for each also. We don't go with the for each. We go with the batch processing, Chandra, right?
Okay.
Which is more optimized approach,
Mm-hmm.
where we can define the batch size as well as the max concurrency. So those like the combination of for each and parallel we can see in batch processing. Okay. So
Okay.
I will just show the batch processing for today, how we can do it. Then like so with batch processing basically, I will not going to explain now because we just have 8 minutes left. So what I can do, uh, I can just drag and drop a batch job. I will explain everything. Don't worry about that. This is my batch job. Okay. And this is my batch job here, basically, right? So now I will just drag and drop this HTTP listener here. Okay.
Jitendra, your screen is hanged.
It's hang
No,
for everyone.
no, it's coming, Kevin.
Is it?
Yeah, maybe you have some network issue.
Okay.
Okay.
And one thing more, Jitendra, you said the output of for parallel for each will be not the original payload, right?
No, not original payload. That's a difference. Okay. We
So
don't
what?
get the original payload outside the forest, but parallel forest. But we get in case of forest.
So what will be the output after parallel
It
for?
generates some kind of what are the attributes, what is the response, right? Those kind of things you can see it here basically in this particular thing, right? So, or what I will suggest, if you want to see the output, like some kind of output or some the area, right? So you can aggregate the response under the parallel for each, and you can print that here basically. You can get outside also. So you
Hmm.
have to define some kind of array. Within the array, you just collect all the response, and finally you can show that response here. By default now, like it is system generated output, which is contain attribute, what are the parameters, what are the responses, all those things it contain
Hmm.
basically.
Okay.
Okay, so now I will just start with, so just I know I will explain each and everything. We have a lot of slides for like batch processing. Like no, we have like I cover everything in like what how it have to calculate formulas and everything. So I will going today. It's not possible. It will take at least 2 hours, right? So I will just start with batch processing today. So we have a batch steps, batch job, right? Batch job is nothing. It's a container. Within that we have a lot multiple batch steps basically. You can define the batch steps. So batch step for handling the messages, best step for handling the like one best step for handling the errors. So those different best steps you can define. You can define what that particular best step can do. I'm going to explain each and everything. So for now I have this batch job, then this is the best step, then I can use some kind of transform message outside, you know outside the best, because I will get a CSV as a HTTP listener. Okay, here I just convert this into JSON. And I will just say payload. Okay. And I will copy this same transform message here. So again, it will going to split the message here basically. Here, before the message come inside the batch step, it gets splitted here. So we have an array of object. It will automatically get splitted here. Then I can just drag and drop this log. I will copy this. I will just not do anything changes to this. Okay, I will copy this. Okay, let me go batch job. So here the block size is 100. Max field record -1. I will put -1. This means even any record get filled, right? You just keep continuing. If I say 10, so it's saying if up to 10 record got filled, you stop. After 10th record get filled, you stop there. You terminate the job. But I will just say -1. You want order sequential, yes, and block size 100. What does this mean? So if you have a 10, like I will do some kind of small calculation here. So it is good, like so here I will show it right now. So if I have 10,000 records, and if I say block size is 100, right? So how many blocks it will going to create? So 10,000 divided by 100. So what is 10,000 divided by 100? It will be 100. It will create 100 block. having 100 blocks, having 100 record each. Okay, that's what it do. Right now, if I say max concurrency define equals to 2, by default it's 2. So at a time, it will pick 2 blocks out of like 100 block. It will pick 2 blocks, and it will process message from those 2 blocks in parallel. Okay, so what I'm saying, I have a 10,000 record, divide by 100. So 100 is nothing, it's my block size. So it will create a 100 block. Each 100 block will contain 100 record. If I say max concurrency equals to 2, it means it will process the record from the 2 blocks at a time, right? So it will start reading, or it will start processing the message from the 2 blocks, right? So let me go back to batch processing. So here I'm saying max concurrency, I will define 2. So block batch size equals to 100. I will just keep it 100. That's fine. Okay. Now it will say, it will create a block of size 100, and it will read a 2 block at a time. If I say 10, it will read a 10 block at a time. I will just say 2. Okay. Let's see. Now here it's the same thing we are doing, logging it. We are requesting to the Salesforce, and we are just transforming the message. So let me save this. Okay, so cool. So let me go to the Postman. Okay, the job is submitted. Here we get the job is submitted basically, and let's see. Yeah, now it is processing in the backend. It's the asynchronous part. Okay, this happens in the asynchronous. Once job is submitted, it is processing the record here. Let's see if we are getting the account inside this account. Okay. And here I will just let it be processed. So on complete will give like how many record failed, how many record success, right? So that is what on complete will give. I will just log the payload. So let me see the console if it's completed. And I will talk about the aggregate right now. Then tomorrow we will see some kind of complicated use cases, like how we can calculate the best size, like what is the appropriate best size for number of records, those kind of thing. It is taking a lot of time, because like it is creating a single connection with your Salesforce basically, right? For each request, for each object, it is creating the one connection. Now it is completed. At the end, you will get some kind of history. It's saying total record process 100, successful record 100, failed record 0. That kind of summary, you get it. Okay, so I will do the mass delete again. Okay, and I just say delete. Okay, it got deleted. I should have deleted it permanently. Okay, now go back. Now we have something called batch aggregator. So I can drag and drop a batch aggregator. Just say 100 aggregate size. Okay. Then what I can do here, I'm just already converting into JSON, right? I always choose to use, because whenever aggregator is there, right? This aggregator basically, right? This give the input in the Java format. So you have to always convert it into JSON payload and bring this request inside this, and bring this transform message inside this. Okay. So I'll put this logger here. So what I'm doing, I've defined a batch aggregator of 200. So I want to send 200 record at a time to the Salesforce system API. Here I'm transforming whatever transform here. I'm just converting it to JSON again, logging it using the same request connector. And finally, I'm just getting the output here. We have to see it in detail. Basically, it's not that straightforward, because it's very important. So we have some concept of streaming and all those things. Basically, we need to know those concepts.
Jitendra, so basically those two blocks will aggregate here in this batch
Yeah,
aggregator.
this will aggregate here. Yeah, this will aggregate and aggregate the response. So up to 200 messages
Okay,
basically.
two blocks
So if
will.
201 comes, then it will create a second aggregation basically. So it will create. It will like So let for example, I will explain. So if I have a 210 records, so first it will send at a time to Salesforce System API. It will aggregate and send. Then in second batch, it will send 10 records. So it will create a two connection with Salesforce System API. In case of 199 record, it will create one connection with the Salesforce System API. In case of 200 record, it will create one connection, right? In case of 201, again it will create 200 one connection, and for one record one connection like that.
And Jitender, if we put this system API before this aggregator, so it will do how many connections in that case?
It
The
will do
number of
two for
threads.
each record one connection, right?
Okay.
In the previous, it is creating, we have 100 record, I think, right? It
Hmm.
created the 100 connection with Salesforce System API, and Salesforce System API consume 100 connection with Salesforce system.
Okay. But in aggregator, we have only two connections if we have
It
210.
depends. Now we have a 100 record, right? So it
Yeah.
will have a one because we have defined the best size of 200.
Okay.
Let me send. Okay, so let me check what happened here. Something is not right. Okay, one minute. Okay, so batch aggregator. This is transform message. I have to remove this because it will be a single record. Okay, it added two array because now it's a single record and aggregation will be done by here. So I will just save this. So because it is creating array inside array, then object. So that's why it threw the error. Just clear this. See, it happened in the seconds. It might be reduced time by the 100 times basically, right? So
Okay.
it just happened everything into the single connections. You can see it. Everything happened into a single connections basically.
So basically, the same thing happens with parallel for each. It also, let's say we have five
No, for
concurrency.
parallel for each it not. For parallel for each it is creating a single connection for each object, right? For when you define the for each with some kind of base size, right? So for example, like it's simple, like for parallel for each, as I mentioned, we cannot aggregate the data for parallel for each, right?
Yeah,
But for each
correct.
we can. So if we define base size for each equals to 10, if you have 100 record and base size is 10, so it will create the 10 connections basically, right?
Okay.
And same thing goes with the here also. If you are using the aggregate component in batch processing, right? If you have 100 records, right, and if you are defining aggregate size of 10, so it will create a 10 connection. But
Okay.
if you are
Okay.
defining the aggregate size of 200, which is one record, like so 100
Okay.
divided
Got it.
like 200, it will up to 200, it will create one. If you are saying
One only.
201 divided by 20, right,
Then we have two.
it will be something 1 point something, right, 1.1 or something, so it will be two connections like that.
Got it. And but for parallel for each, we have
Yeah,
a connection for each record.
each and record, but it does in the record it process the record in the parallel.
Okay.
Yeah, so you got it right what we have done. So like what we have done, and let's check how many records get created in the, whether it's record created or not. Yeah, we have seen records has been created. Okay, we will pick some more 15,000 or 5,000 or 10,000 records in tomorrow session. I think we have a lot of times happen, like I hope you understand, like I try to make sure, like see, Venkat, we don't have best size for the parallel for each, right? So we don't have it. And like as I mentioned, it depends on the system basically. Whenever you are defining a best size for Salesforce, it can support up to 200 object in the single array. So you can define up to 200 of best size, not more than that. It's completely depend on the end system also, how many object they can accept in the single array basically. Okay.
Okay,
Okay.
okay, Jiten.
So tomorrow we will continue on batch processing. Like today, I just gave a glimpse of the batch processing. Tomorrow we will going to see more on the batch processing, basically, right? And then we will complete our process API, and then we will try to create some kind of experience API also. Okay, and we will use the scheduler for that. I hope you like the session for today. Like I try to cover as many as thing possible for at least for parallel for each and for parallel for each and the for each. Yeah, but I will see like we have to cover more on the batch processing, like how to calculate best size, what is the best size, and what is the best max concurrency. We will take some complex scenario, how we can do the error handling and do all those things into this. Any question?
Yeah, Jitendra, this is Arvind here. Do we have plan in future like an architecture also?
We have some 6 session starting from January, right? Where we will talk about the integration and the platform architecture both.
Okay.
So if you go to the Mumbai MuleSoft Meetup,
Mhm.
right, you will see uh, those session has been already scheduled.
Okay. Sure, I will do. I will. I will visit and check there. And yeah, concepts like AI agent also into it.
For AI, I already done that. Okay, if you want, we have like we have a video recording for 10 sessions. Like around, we have done 10 sessions for that. But I'm planning like once I complete this training, right? This basic MuleSoft training. I think it's like basic MuleSoft training. I'm planning to have kept some kind of AI session, how AI in MuleSoft basically, like how we can utilize AI into the MuleSoft basically, right? So we will going to talk about that. I will going to keep 5 or 6 sessions for that also.
Thanks, Jitendra. Do you think like because AI is now a hot topic, so MuleSoft will impact or
No, no,
because
like it's not like that, right? Because like you like AI is there, but it will help to create a better solutions basically. Like it will not going to impact you or anyone. Like you can create a you will definitely need to run this AI things also, right? So yeah, I will just suggest like you learn AI how you can give the prompts, right? Better prompts to generate the codes, right? You just get familiar to those kind of things. What is AI? How AI can be useful in our daily things basically, right? How we can give the prompt, how we can use the different AI tools to improve to improve the efficiency basically, right? So those kind of things, like it will not going to impact anything, right?
because I saw Jitendra your channel on YouTube channel on that where you mentioned